Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West. And what day is it, Sam?
It's Warlock Wednesday.
Woo! It's another Warlock Wednesday.
Yeah, there
Hey,
there aren't. I guess there are a ton of these left, huh? We're like halfway through the invocations. Three evocations.
we're getting close to
Yeah,
halfway through, I think. We're in the eyes now.
that's true.
Because today we'll be talking about the Eldritch Invocation, improved Pact weapon.
It's it is an invocation. Technically, you're allowed to take this one. I wouldn't, but you're allowed to. So this is a prerequisite Pact of the Blade, and it doesn't have a lot of text, but it says this: you can use any weapon you summon with your Pact Blade feature as a spellcasting focus for your Warlock spells. I think that's probably the most relevant text here. In addition, the weapon gets a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls, unless it's a magic weapon that already has a bonus to these rolls, which I cannot express how unfathomably stupid that was. In any case, just that they had to make it not work on magic weapons. Anger. Anyway, and the final thing it does, I actually really like this text. I wish this text had different things with it. It says the weapon you conjure can be a short bow, longbow, light crossbow, or heavy crossbow, which opens your Pact weapons and Pact builds up to being ranged, which is really potentially interesting.
Now,
Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything else that supports that range weapon attack stuff, and that makes it pretty huge cost to use a short bow. So, like, I don't love that, and you don't get this out the gate either. This is something that you have to be at least third level, so you like have to be a dex-based Pact of the Blade warlock that is planning on getting a longbow, and it doesn't work with, like, if you get a magical longbow, you can't pact with that. It's got some issues beyond that. I don't know. What are your initial impressions of improved Pact weapon?
before I get to that, I'll clarify that last line.
Okay,
Your options are not limited to this.
it's in addition.
Yes. That I really wish they had said that because the way it's worded makes it feel like, all right, these are your options, and that's not the case,
No,
obviously, but
yeah,
I don't like how it's worded.
yeah, sure, I agree with that.
My initial thoughts, I think probably the same as yours. Like, well, no, yeah, a little bit further than that because I thought improved pact weapon. This is Pact of the Blade. I thought this was going to be the ultimate Pact of the Blade feature. Oh, you have a pact weapon. Now it's going to rock. But no, that doesn't seem to be the case. This does not rock. You you get a +1 bonus to attack and damage if you don't already have that because you have a magical weapon.
Yeah,
That's unfathomable.
yeah. The fact that, like, if you get a magic weapon and you want to use it, this does nothing, but not nothing. This does very little. What? Who made that?
I mean,
Anger is what I feel.
if you choose Pact of the Blade, this is your pact, and you just get like an okay magic weapon. Like, why did I choose Pact of the Blade?
Agreed. So the meat of what I think this actually does. If let's assume that you don't have a magic weapon. Let's assume this is the best case scenario for what this does. You're in a magic item desert. Your DM doesn't want to give +1 stuff out. I don't. Maybe they just are stingy with them. I'm stingy with magic items just because I forget they exist, and I don't run monsters with magic resistance. So, like, I can see situations where you're not getting magic weapons anyway. This gives you a +1 on its own. I do not think it's worth an invocation. I really, really don't. I think extra attack is Thirsting Blade's great. This is not close to Thirsting Blade. This is +1 to hit and damage. I don't want to be spending an entire invocation on whenever there are so many other higher impact utility, higher impact combative options. There's way better things to improve your character sheet as a whole than improved pact weapon is. That makes the whole of it, whenever the bulk of the feature then is you can cast spells while wielding your weapons with this, that puts this narrowly in a circumstance where you're at a table that you're playing a dedicated martial warlock that wants to be using somatic and material component based spells every round, or not every round, but frequently in combat. So much so that you don't also you can't set yourself up to cast a spell on one turn, draw your weapon, attack with the next, right? This has to be a situation where you're casting spells that, again, require both the verbal or the material and somatic components. Because if it's just one or the other, you can grab the material components if it doesn't have a somatic component, and you can use somatic components without grabbing a material component if it doesn't have either of those. Then you're in a very narrow world where drawing your weapon is a pretty taxing option in a lot of combats. I don't see that being that realistic. I don't see that being a huge burden as a warlock in a lot of situations.
Yeah, I don't either.
And that leaves it like an invocation for a +1 weapon? Nah. An invocation so you're allowed to use bows. Hard pass. Not for me. Like, I would love there to be an invocation that like actually let you play a Pact of the Blade with a longbow. There were Unearthed Arcana articles that pitched this idea, right? Playtest stuff that was like, well, you could have a longbow specific invocation that let you do cool things with your longbow or gave it magical enchantments of some kind. If it let you like fire Eldritch Blast from the bow or like fuse them together in some neat ways. If there were ways to bake in a unique play pattern with an evocation that worked specifically with ranged weapons, I'd be like, yeah, that seems pretty sweet. I'd be all about that. Just tacking it on at the end of this with no meaningful improvements to the play pattern, it's like, well, I have to work so unbelievably hard. I have to take a Pact boon and an invocation to be allowed to use the weapon I want to be using? No. I'm going to play a ranger. I'm going to play a fighter. I'm going to play a character that can use the bow and then take a level dip warlock if I want the warlock stuff that goes outside of that.
Why would you want to cast Eldritch Blast with a bow?
I don't know. I'm just brainstorming.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just tossing like hypotheticals out of the world because it doesn't exist, right? This feature
Right.
doesn't do any of those things. Why you
No.
would want to catch Eldritch Blast with a bow? Maybe you like the fantasy of it. I don't know. Maybe it changes how Eldritch Blasts work. It doesn't exist, so we can say whatever we want.
You could do this while you cast Eldritch Blast.
That's true.
That might be the somatic component.
Could be. I will say one notable thing: Hex has a somatic and material component, and Hex is often a thing that you're going to be wanting to do as a melee warlock. Normally what happens is you go into a fight, you go, okay, great, I hex the thing, then I draw my Pact weapon and attack with it, right? That's the normal play pattern that Hex uses. If you drop Hex mid-fight, this is a way that says, I don't have to worry about dropping Hex mid-fight, I can just get it, it's just fine, I can just bring it back up next round as long as I'm, again, not wielding something in my offhand, which is perfectly reasonable. A lot of the time, whenever your Hex goes down there, you just go, okay, whatever, and you just keep fighting. It's not a huge deal, because again, you've got like 2 spell slots total, so you don't necessarily want to spend a whole lot like your other remaining spell slot on your second Hex. You often want that banked for something more powerful. That's, that's not a ringing endorsement for this. I would say like the summon stuff are better options. So like if you want to have a summon Shadow Spawn, again, you ideally want to have that prior to the fight starting. Or in the first round, you summon it and then draw your weapon on the subsequent turn. That's the real play pattern I see actually occurring. That makes the material components that they have and the somatic components, maybe if it does go down, you want to bring it back up immediately. Maybe it dies and you want to bring it back up without having to forgo you're still spending actions to cast it. God, it's just so awkward and inefficient and useless, Bob. I'm trying so hard to make the spellcasting focus have value, and it's just because of how few spells you
Appreciate
get.
your effort. I'm not trying that hard though.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'm
This
just
is
gonna recognize this as garbage that it is.
Yeah. Honestly, this might be a teaching moment for a lot of people that go, oh, I just assumed my Pact weapon would count as my spellcasting focus. A lot of people probably just assumed that because, Pact of the Blade is a garbage feature that shouldn't exist as it does. But hey, that's it doesn't, so. Maybe if you're like a level 15 character and you are minute to Hexblade and you're like, well, I don't really want any more utility stuff. I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. My upper level spells are good enough. Sure, this gives you a +1 weapon if you don't already have one, which if you don't already have one by 50th level, I'm like, man, even me as a DM, I would be giving out +1 weapons by that point. So I don't see it. I don't see this having any practical value on most every character.
Yeah. To say about it, I'm trying to think of ways that, like, what do you want from an invocation called improved Pact weapon?
I want a third attack. I want my Pact weapon to do cool things. I want to have neat on-hit effects for my Pact weapon. I want my Pact weapon to knock people prone, or steal parts of their soul, or light them on fire, or, do magic stuff. And this doesn't do magic stuff. It just gives it a +1 and lets it become magical.
Yeah. I mean,
it already is magical. It's a Pact weapon, right? God, please tell me Pact weapons are at least magical. Oh.
Are you looking that up, or?
I have it up here. I'm reading through it. You can transform one magic weapon into a Pact weapon. Your Pact weapon disappears. You can use your action to create a Pact weapon. The weapon counts as magical. All right. So Pact weapons at least can get through magic resistance. That's one thing they do.
It's even worse.
Yeah, that does make this worse. That does make this do less. So
Man, a bare minimum. I want it to be. I want it +1 to whatever my weapon currently is.
yeah.
That's that's a pretty crap minimum.
Yeah. I will say, like,
Just,
in the instance you do get the +1 and don't have it already, this probably is the defense of the invocations where, like, yeah, +1 technically is pretty good, +5% to hit, and then +1 on top of that damage is like, yeah, that's a net pretty big positive. It'll make the big number stack higher. Sure. It's just, that's not new or exciting or fancy to me. That's not a way to make the highly limited Warlock class that is hugely gated by what spells they have available to them do something powerful or interesting or new to me. It just makes them a worse fighter. I'm like,
well, see, you don't typically give out magic weapons or items or whatever, but for me and the tables I play at, when I'm there, I'm like, I'm excited from the very first level. I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna play through this, but someday soon I'm gonna get my first magic weapon.
I know the general consensus around a lot of D&D, magic items are a huge pillar. They're not in my tables personally, and my players have never. I don't have any players that have gripes with that. My players have never considered it. They don't really care about it. It's not a huge thing to them. It's just not how we tend to interface with the game. But I definitely understand and respect that so many tables is a gigantic element of the game. You just get piles and piles of cool magic toys. You get all kinds of fun, nifty things that you find in dungeons where every left turn you investigate a little shambling altar and you pull out a candle and it's a never lit candle. Or you loot a skeleton and it happens to have a magical greatsword. They can be littered all over the place. It's a big part of the game for a lot of people. I understand that. And that makes this so much worse. It makes it even worse than it already is, because you would want to put your pact weapon on some cool, fancy new toy you found. And this goes, I mean, you're allowed to do that, but why would you also take this in addition to it? You wouldn't. And that's trash. Even at my tables, this is trash.
Yeah.
1 out of 5, utter garbage.
This is making me sad. Yeah.
It makes me sad too.
Yeah. I could consider giving this a 2 if it didn't just make me angry and disappointed. So I'm going to agree with your 1.
I think the reality of this at almost every table that will be playing it is that it will not have any meaningful text, and I think that's got to give it a 1, right?
Yeah, but more so for the anger and disappointment.
Sure, that's your parameters. I get that. That's fair.
All right. Well, I guess that's that. Thank you, Sam. And
but commenters, tell us.
Yes. Go ahead.
Tell us that we're wrong. At least that I'm wrong. Or you can tell Bob he's wrong too. Actually, if you only tell Bob's wrong and Sam's right, I'll be confused. But you could do that. You're allowed to write that comment.
Let us know what you think of improved pact weapon.
Yeah.
Did you take this for your warlocks? Tell us why.
Sure. Maybe you're at a table that really cares about drawing stow weapons. Sure.
I bet there are some.
Yeah, they definitely are.
All right. Well, that was improved pact weapon. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Like and subscribe and all that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.